Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome today to the show James Arnie, retired director of the Maryland Revenue Administration and a great friend of MSATP and a great friend of mine. Thank you, Jim, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Well, before we get into the weeds of all this legislative session, I want to personally thank Jim for all the hard work he does for the society. For those who do not know, Jim reports to the CPR committee each week of the actions of bills that the CPR committee has requested that he track. Jim, I'll tell you, without your help, I don't know what we would do. I just really want to thank you for all the work you do for us.
Thank you for your kind words, Shannon. I would like to say that the CPR committee has a lot of dedicated, hardworking individuals. We have a good rapport and relationship, and I enjoy it.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much. And just keep bringing them chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
Okay, yum, yum.
April 17th is coming up.
Yay. Well, before the 17th, we have Monday, April 8th. That's the
Yes.
end of the session. And I guess, in this next, what will we talking? Maybe 12 days, maybe
About 10 days.
10 days, that we're going to see a lot of activity in Annapolis.
Oh, yes.
So during the session, we had some key bills that we prepared written testimony on. Let's talk about those.
Okay.
Let's do those first. So the first one is the Retirement Tax Fairness Act that would qualify everything, including IRAs, for the pension exclusion deduction in Maryland.
Correct.
What's happening with that one? Anything?
The one bill had a hearing, House Bill 149, was heard in March 6th and is sitting in committee. And the Senate Bill 170 had a hearing in Budget and Taxation, and they gave it an unfavorable report.
Wow. I mean, this is one that we've had year after year, what, 14, 15?
Like 15 years in a row.
It's amazing that we just can't get this one through.
This one had a big price tag on it, but
Mm-hmm.
the way it was worked out, the governor's office, they were going to phase it in over 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so that the first year the fiscal note negative revenue would be like 17 million. In 21 it was like 25 million. 22 was 33 million, 44 million the following year, and then like 56 million the last year when it was fully phased in.
Okay.
But too much money, and they didn't go for it.
Well, if I recall, and tell me if I'm wrong, there was like variations of this bill. There was like different bills,
Absolutely, yeah.
and I think that's personally, I think that was another reason why I didn't out, because we had so many different options. I really don't think the committees knew which one anybody really wanted. I mean, it was sad. It was very disappointing because I think it's a needed, and with everyone having their IRAs and these different types of pensions, I think it's just the fair thing to do.
It is, but for 15 years, there's been some version uh, introduced each year, and nothing has passed. One year it'll pass the House and go to the Senate, and the Senate hears it and lets it die,
Right.
or vice versa. So it just, they're not interested.
That's sad. So the next one is to increase the standard deduction amount for the state of Maryland starting in 2019. So that was House Bill 271 and Senate Bill 087. So where are we at with that one? Anywhere?
Those have just had the hearing and just sitting. They're going to die in committee.
Wow, because they're just
They're
not
not-
moving.
Right. It's they have not moved. They did not move by the crossover date. So they're just going to die in committee.
So to follow up with that, we also had the bill, House Bill 450, which decoupled Maryland from the federal, which would allow them to itemize even if you took standard on federal.
Correct.
Again, is that just sitting in committee as well?
Just sitting.
Is
Nothing. Nothing's moving.
Wow.
It's their way of killing a bill.
Yeah, just not doing activity on it. So now, how about House Bill 457 and Senate Bill 457, which would decrease the percentage of the penalty in Maryland? I know IRS came out with it. They had an 85, and then they just came out a new one with 80%. Is Maryland doing anything but that one?
Those are just sitting, and it's kind of interesting. Actually, the way the bill was worded, it provided that no penalty, or the comptroller's office would waive all penalty and interest
Okay.
for tax year 18 returns, which is when they're being filed right now.
Right now.
And this is the fiscal year 2019 budget cycle for the government.
Mm-hmm.
that budget has already been set and so forth. So this was an emergency bill.
Right.
It was heard and just sitting there, no action was taken. Now, I will say the fiscal note I thought was really screwy because if it was applicable to tax year 18 and those returns are being filed now, we're in fiscal year
Right.
19. They had on the fiscal note for 4 successive years, the revenue was going to be negative for $20.5 million. And I'm thinking, how could that be? They should have reflected like 90% of the 20 million right now for returns filed by April 15th, and then included a little portion for the 6-month extension return for 2020. Nothing for years after that. So it made it look like it was going to cost $80 million. And I think that's wrong. I don't understand.
And that could be.
I do not understand.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the legislator that put that in or sponsored it didn't jump on that and get that corrected.
I'm surprised also.
Yeah,
but,
that's interesting.
I didn't hear anything about it.
Wow. Now the minimum wage bill, boy, that's a hot item right now.
Yes.
Between the TV and everything, and I understand the governor vetoed it, but last night, but they have enough votes to over.
Yes, they can override it.
Right. So I know we've had a lot of comments back and forth and a lot of amendments because they ironed out. I mean, is there anything that you really want to really focus on, that we need to know?
I think the meat of the bill or bills, number one, employer includes a government unit of state government.
Okay.
And it gave a definition of small employer, means an employer that employs 14 or fewer employees.
Okay.
And that comes into play in the bill. And I'm going to use the term large employer, which means someone with 15 or more.
Right.
What they did in effective July 1 of 18, they made the minimum wage $10.10 per hour. And that was supposed to be, they used to do it on a fiscal year basis, but they amended that 12-month period to make it 18 months so that $10.10 per hour will take us through the end of 2019. In January of 2020, the minimum hourly rate will become $11.
Oh, and so that's where the 90 cents comes into play. Okay,
well,
gotcha.
What will happen is then after, or starting in January 1 of 2021, the hourly minimum wage will be $11.75 per hour, and it increases 75 cents per hour for the next 4 years.
To 2025.
2024.
Oh, 2024. Okay.
It will be $14 per hour, and then beginning January 1st of 2025, it becomes $15 an hour.
Gotcha.
Now, on the small employer side, it follows that same basic format, except the years where it goes up, it's only 60 cents per hour instead of 75 cents per hour. They tried to lessen the burden until January of 25. It actually goes beyond for the large employers. Small employers would have to pay $14 per hour. And then for the 6-month period beginning January 26, $14.60. And then starting July 1 of 26, it would be $15.
$15 an hour. Okay, so they're giving the small employers a 14 less, more time to get to that $15 level.
Correct.
I know at one time they were talking about agricultural. Was there anything in there about giving kind of exemption for the agricultural?
I believe so. That's still in.
That's still in. Okay,
Yes.
good. Now, what happens with like Montgomery County that's already paying more on the minimum wage? How is that going? Is that affected at all?
No, there's a clause in there that if the county is paying more per hour, then that's fine. They don't have to meet this. They wouldn't have to reduce their minimum wage.
Oh,
To
okay.
meet that.
But but the people that are preparing the unemployment the unemployment records will
Right.
have to know that. Okay.
Correct. And there was also one provision in there that if you have an employee that's under the age of 18, then you would have to pay them 85% of what the minimum wage is. You wouldn't have to give them the minimum wage hourly rate.
Oh, okay. And it's 85%
Each year.
as it goes up. Okay. So 18-year-olds. Okay.
Yes.
So it's 18 and younger, or is
Yes.
it 18 and younger? Okay. Wow. I know that was a big bill. I guess we're going to have to dive down into that one a little bit more
Mhm.
and get a
Absolutely.
summary. Yeah. So the next one is the Senate Bill 500, which is the Maryland Family Medical Leave Insurance Program. That I don't think that went anywhere.
No, it's just had a hearing and sitting,
just sitting as
and
well.
will
Yeah.
die.
Well, then we have now. Let's move a little bit into the regulations, and we
Okay.
had two regulation bills. One was the firm mobility, and that was for the CPAs,
Right.
the CPA firms. I think that got out of both houses. I mean, out of both committees. Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so that's out there for vote, and
Yeah,
I think that's going to
on-
pass with no problem.
I agree.
Yeah. Now we have then we have the individual tax preparer board of reciprocity standards.
Right.
That one died, correct?
Yes, they were killed.
They were both killed. Okay, great. So that was House Bill 1278 and Senate Bill 601,
Yes.
which I think is a good move.
I agree.
We were really on top of that one, and we really felt that that one should not go anywhere, and that we really pushed to make sure that happened, did not get out of committee.
And I agree because I watched the committee for hearing in economic matters, and I thought it was a fiasco.
Yeah.
So it was terrible.
So, this is one of the things that we do as a society is make sure we keep it. And like I said, when we see really bad bills, we really do a lot of legwork and phone calls and letter writing
Absolutely.
to make sure these things don't happen. Now, Jim, I know this is just a sampling, but I know you want to talk about some other bills that I think the viewers will find interesting. So I'll just turn the floor over to you at this point.
Thank you. The first one is House Bill 454. It's a very simple bill, but I think any preparers and business owners should be aware of it, that this will require the Comptroller's Office to publish a comprehensive list on the agency's website of tangible personal property and services that are subject to the sales and use tax law. And the list must be updated at least quarterly and detail any additions, deletions, or revisions to the list. And the bill becomes effective if it's past the House side. It's over on the Senate side. I think it had a hearing yesterday or the day before, so we'll wait to see the final vote on that to make sure it does become law.
And that would be effective 10/1.
They would have to, that the law takes effect October 1st of 2019.
Okay.
So I'm sure they would have to have it out there at the beginning of 2019.
Yes.
And I think that's a good provision because of their sales tax law is very complex, and one thing is taxable, one thing isn't. The second one is the House Bill 810. This is the income tax child and dependent care tax credit. This is doing two things. This bill is doing two things. It expands the existing child dependent care tax credit by increasing the current phase out that reduces or eliminates the benefit for an individual whose income exceeds specified amounts. And the second thing is it's making the credit refundable for taxpayers with federal adjusted gross income of $50,000 for single and $75,000 for a joint filer. So
where is that one at right now?
That's in the final stages. It's over on the Senate side to be heard in that regard, and then hopefully get passed.
Now, so if it passes, are we going to see that in 2019?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll see that in 2019. Okay.
Absolutely. What was that, 810? Yes, it was. This bill was heard yesterday in Budget and Tax.
Okay.
The next bill is House Bill 814. This is Maryland Health Insurance Option, and that's what they're referring to the program, an option as opposed to an exchange. And this is where the Comptroller's Office, the Maryland Department of Health, and the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange have to work together collectively. And they're going to do this through the Maryland tax return. And they will initially have a box on there to check off if they don't have insurance. And then those that indicate that they do not, they will get mailings and so forth from the exchange. Now, this has to be ready for the checkoff box by next year
Okay.
for the tax returns that are filed for tax year 2019. And I was thinking about this last night and giving it some thought, and I thought, now I remember
Hmm.
in 2008 and 2008, a bill was passed, House Bill 1391, that required the comptroller's office to have a checkbox on the tax return. And that is still on there today, but now instead of on the 502, it's part of the 502B where you list your dependents.
Okay.
So I'm sure that's going to come into play.
So
as
really,
well.
so since it's already on there, we're really not looking at a form change, but the thing is, it's going to be a required field,
Yes,
and to really fit into this option.
right.
And did this happen because of the change that we're seeing on the federal level?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And who was Feldman? Delegate Feldman was.
He's got the cross-file bill, Senator Feldman.
Oh, Senator Feldman.
On
Thank
the
you.
Senate side. That's Senate Bill 802. That's,
Okay.
that bill is being heard April 2nd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 1 week before sine die.
So you think it's going to go through quickly in
yes,
the 1
because-
week?
Yes, because on the Senate side, there's no testimony.
Okay.
The sponsor of the bill is there to answer any questions since they've already got a House bill.
And that came out
cross-filed.
favorably. So
Yes. So,
Yeah.
so there's not going to be any issue or controversy in that regard.
okay.
And the last bill is House Bill 994, Labor and Employment Criminal Record Screening Practices. And this prohibits an employer of 15 or more employees from including on a paper or electronic application form a question or other request for information regarding whether the applicant has a criminal or has had criminal accusations brought against the applicant. And there are a couple provisions in there. For example, if someone is a sex offender and must register,
Hmm.
then it doesn't preclude them from asking that question,
Hmm.
and they would not, qualify.
So again, it's 15 or more employees.
Yes,
So it seems, and amazingly, that we're at least with the bills, they are using that 1415 number
yes,
across the
consistently,
which is good because a lot of times we don't see that.
A lot of times you see it all over the place. One
Yeah.
time it's 50, the next time it's 15, the next time it's 30. You never know what number they're going to come up with. But this year it seems to be consistent.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes.
So wow, a lot of good information, a lot, and I'll tell you. So where are we at right now? How many bills actually have they filed down in the session this year?
This year there have been 2,476 combined. That's 1,048 Senate bills and 1,049 Senate bills and 1,429 House bills for 2,478. And I went back, since this was the first session after the 2018 election.
Mm-hmm.
I went back, and 2015 was the session following the 14 election, and they had 942 Senate bills introduced in 15, and 1,292 House bills were introduced in 2015 for a total of 2,234. When you compare the 2,234 and 15, almost 2,500 this year, and look at last year, there were 3,100 bills.
Wow.
So you can see the impact of new legislators in the General Assembly,
In the General Assembly.
Can have, because they're just learning the ropes, and they have
Right.
their basically responsibility is to attend meetings and observe and listen.
Now, I know always when we get close to the end of the normal regular session, there's always something, oh, do you think we'll have a special session? Do you think we'll have a special session? I really don't see anything really major out there that's going to cause any kind of rumbling about that. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there controversial or pending that's
Mm-hmm.
not gotten resolved at this stage.
Right.
So I see no need for a special session.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't either. So, I mean,
Right.
I guess the only thing I could see that's going to be a rumbling is when the constituents start seeing that they're not getting their refunds that they used to get in Maryland, and the money, I hate to use the word windfall, but they do have a windfall of cash available to them that they're not using the deductions or giving them opportunities on their returns to get some of that back.
Well, again, I think that's part of the Kerwin report that came in for higher education.
Oh, okay.
That they have to pour, if they follow the Kerwin report, millions upon millions and probably billions over a certain period of time. And I think that's where their focus, one of their key focus points, has been this year. And that's why we haven't seen a lot of bills passed that have even a little bit of a price tag attached to them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point because as I was stating to you earlier off air that I didn't seem like there was a lot of really super duper activity down
No.
there. It's been pretty, the minimum wage I think is the biggest one that I've seen, and
Yes.
again, like you said, the minimum wage and of course the
Healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare is
Exactly.
the other large one. Jim, again, you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
And so, I mean, once again, I cannot thank you enough for what you do for us and keeping us up to date on all this information. I know that you can watch these, and actually, for those who are watching from home and get bored during the day, you can watch these sessions
Oh, yes.
live, and some of them are pretty interesting. I have to say
They are. For example, this year you can't watch the floor sessions.
Oh, okay.
Next year you'll be able to.
Okay.
But you can listen to the floor sessions. And on the minimum wage bill, I listen to those periodically. And I agree with the individuals, whether it was on the Senate side or House side, when you have these mom and pop businesses on the Eastern Shore in Western Maryland,
Yeah.
out in Cumberland, they were saying, if this bill passes and they have to do that, and the mom and pop hires 5 employees and they have to start paying $15 an hour, what's going to happen in order to pay somebody $15 an hour? They may keep 3 employees and terminate 2 employees
Right.
in order to meet that obligation.
Yeah.
And it was moving to hear them plead their case.
Right. And I also heard that, some of them are even saying that, they're so close to the West Virginia line that, what, hey, I'll just buy something on the other side and I'll open up my business there because it's only,
Exactly.
I'm 7 miles from the line. I am
Right.
really flexible,
Absolutely.
And so I did hear that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
I'm going to conclude today's show with hopefully everyone received their brochure about the 60th anniversary education plans in the mail. They went out last Tuesday. I know we've gotten some phone calls here at the office about it, and we have some members who are really excited about the program and has already taken advantage of the Premier Plus and the Pro packages. So hopefully, if you haven't gotten in the mail, you'll see that in your mail very shortly, and take a look at it. If you have any questions about it, we are here to help and for you to understand the program and to answer any questions you have. So give us a call here at the Society office. We'll be glad to help you. Now, as we sign off, and we only have a very few more days left in tax season, hopefully nobody decides to extend it. And I wish everyone to have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful spring weather, and we'll see you next week.